Oh, hi, everybody. My name is Matt Storrs, and this is Mattsplaining. Today on the show, I have somebody who has something very exciting to talk about. So I'll just, without further ado, expert, what are you an expert in?
Hi, my name is Dresden Visage, and I am an expert in Satanism.
Interesting. So my understanding of Satanism is that it's predominantly for people that are frustrated with the fact that Jesus isn't very cool, and that throughout all of the Jesus stories, he's basically just a goody two shoes with the exception of a few instances. And they want somebody as a deity and somebody to look up to that has a little bit of like panache and is willing to like go out, have fun, make some bad decisions, but like also kind of be out there and invigorated by life. Think about it as, for instance, like if you had Highlights magazine, like it's Jesus is gallant, and Satan is Goofus. And Goofus might not necessarily be like the smartest person, but he's going to have more fun. Gallant is, to some degree, like could easily be easily manipulated by, the higher ups in authority. So it's kind of that rejection of authority. In addition, I think that it also has a lot of, based on the food I know about with Satanism, one big thing with a lot of churches is like the communal aspect. And with Satanism, it's my understanding that the food is significantly better. Like if most churches have like a potluck or like a service afterwards, Satanism, like they have Seitan. I believe Satan was created for Satanism.
Absolutely.
Okay. And then, you also have like, Satanist coffee shops, you have Satanist sandwich shops, you have this whole subgenre of food establishments that are specifically focused. So kind of like how there's the anti-LGBTQ cake shops, there's, these Satanist sandwich shops and coffee shops and other establishments that are like, oh no, we're going to definitely serve everybody. Because I think that's one of the tenets of them is that, you go around and you treat people well, you treat people, you try to expand people's rights as best you can. So like, I know they do a lot of lawsuits on, like for instance, if like they're very performative lawsuits, a lot of them aren't necessarily going to be successful, but like it gets attention on issues that might be underrepresented, or there might not be somebody to go in and try and defend themselves. So, like for instance, like the anti-oil people that are gluing their hands, to walls and like throwing soup on paintings. Like, I feel like Satanists are that, but for the legal system. Like they're bringing these cans of tomato soup of these lawsuits that may get struck down, but it's creating a big to-do and, getting a Satanist 10 commandments on, the lawn of a place. I don't know where, if that actually happened or if it was a statue. Okay, well, we're something to work towards. Ultimately, I think that Satanism is something where it's giving a voice to the voiceless in a lot of ways and trying to protect rights for people that might not have a traditional religious structure to protect them. On top of that, there's also like the whole satanic panic thing, but I think that that probably was just like a misunderstanding of what was actually happening in the 80s. Just there's a lot of cocaine going around. So, who knows what actually happened there. But yeah, I mean, that's my understanding of Satanism. How much of that is accurate?
Well, Matt, some of it, quite a bit. You are a smart person.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
I already knew that, but
thank you.
Yeah, well, first off, Satanism is a religion. So while you said that it gives voice to the voiceless and gives a place for people who might not have a religious structure, those of us in the Satanic Temple do consider Satanism to be our religion, even though we do not believe that Satan exists, that God exists. We don't feel that to be a religion that you have to believe in the supernatural or have a deity. There are things like Buddhism, and certain forms of Judaism that are also non-theistic. And we're seeing more and more non-theistic religions, like new ones, being built. I talked to someone recently who's building a non-theistic religion around kink. So
interesting.
We're going to see this more and more. And I think that that's fantastic, because religions right now in this country, at least, are given preferential treatment. You know, churches can have tax exempt status, even though now they are allowed to pretty much participate in politics, when in the past that has not been allowed. If you're claiming tax exemption, Trump kind of changed that in 2017 when he kind of pulled back on the Johnson Amendment. So we feel that it's perfectly valid if you have a community, if you have a structure of belief, like we have our 7 tenets, like you mentioned, the Satanic 10 Commandments. Those for us are the 7 tenets, and that is our belief system that we all agree on, and we feel that that is plenty to be a religion.
Yeah, I could, yeah, absolutely. I could see how 7 would be better than 10. I feel like some of those 10 commandments could be, you know, kind of folded into one another pretty easily.
Sure. And like, those are kind of ridiculous when you look at them. So we don't, the common misconception is maybe that we hate religion. We don't hate religion. We are a religion, and we just don't want to live in a theocratic society. We don't want to live in a country where our laws are decided by one group's religion. And that happens a lot in the United States. So we push back against that. We want to be a presence that says, hey, we're here too. We also should have a say in what these laws are. Like, we don't need to be, you know, this doesn't need to be, you mentioned, I'm not familiar with your reference, the gallant and goofus, but you said that there was a rejection of authority. Absolutely. So we pull a lot from some classic literature, like Paradise Lost, which is from, let's see, it's published in 1666, and The Revolt of the Angels, which was published in 1914. And both of them show Satan from the Bible kind of rewritten as a underdog hero who is fighting against tyrannical, arbitrary authority. And that is why, even though we don't believe in Satan, we use him as a socio-political counter myth to express our ideals and our beliefs.
Interesting. So yeah, I would say, so you go for classical literature with the exception of Highlights magazine. So Highlights magazine isn't necessarily something that you would turn to for your concepts of, you know, these tenets and ideas. But you know, so like, are there a lot of games that you play in the Satanic Temple?
We find the word, we do crossword puzzles, we connect the dots. Absolutely. We do have an after-school Satan program that we have. Basically, we try to set it up in schools that have the Good News program, so that kids can have a secular or alternative to the Good News program, which is basically an indoctrination program for children. But we can, because we know that all of this is based on fiction, including the Bible, to us, it is all fiction. And that means that we can take any fictional representation of Satan, and we are completely within our rights to say, that's satanic because, or we can even, like, I went to a satanic party recently and I dressed up as Medusa. I have claimed Medusa as a satanic figure because this is what her story means to me. So we take fiction, including pop culture, and we can use it however we want to explain our beliefs metaphorically. So there could be someone out there who uses Highlights magazine as you did.
What it feels like is that, and this, pardon me for this, but it feels like it's a bunch of English majors that came together and were like, hey, let's make those reflective essays, but as a religion, and make everything about Satan. Is that, is that too far?
No, our founders met at a party for Harvard graduates. So they were both graduates of Harvard. They met, they talked about, one of them was going off on a tangent about how public school is bad. And the other walked up and got involved in that conversation, and they became friends. One of them considered himself a LaVeyan Satanism at the time, Satanist at the time, which is a different branch of Satanism, which was founded in the 60s.
Okay.
They then founded the Satanic Temple in 2012, weren't really active until 2013 is when they started doing stuff. But yeah, there are multiple branches of Satanism. So we've been talking mostly about the Satanic Temple, which I should add, I am not a representative of the Satanic Temple. I do not speak for them in any official capacity.
Absolutely.
All of this is my opinion and my experience. But yeah, there are multiple branches. The older, the kind of 60s Church of Satan, LaVeyan Satanism branch is more, it was based around the idea that man is an animal and kind of glorifying the 7 deadly sins as human. So, you know, what's wrong with lust? What's wrong with anger? What's wrong with greed? It's human. And they were a lot more social Darwinism, dog eat dog world, you know, live for yourself, step on anyone who gets in your way. There's this cool poem, Satan has horns, Jesus wore sandals, Anton LaVey is just Ayn Rand with candles. So
okay, that from how you described it, that sounds like it tracks pretty well.
Yeah, so they have served their purpose. They still exist as a Twitter feed. They call us not real Satanists, but they think we're trolling and that we're just using Satanism to make a point. But we believe that we're just a different branch of Satanism with different beliefs and different ways that we define what Satanism is.
Yeah, it does sound very much like a religion because it sounds like you have two sects that disagree and are butting heads, and that just feels like Catholics and Protestants.
Yeah, we're the Protestants, basically.
Yeah, I love a good Protestant, and it's you know, those reforms. You only need 7 theses. You know, Martin Luther needed 99. 90 something. I'm a bad Lutheran. Yeah, that's pretty fantastic. I'd like to touch on one more thing before we wrap up. But anything about the potlucks? Do you know anything if Satan is actually a covert food item that Satanists put into popular culture, or is that just way off base?
I feel like it's spelled Seitan, Satan. Is that correct?
I believe so. I'm not sure, but
maybe a different language. Am not
that probably is what it. Okay, that's
but
probably.
We do have. So our first tenet is one should strive to act with empathy and compassion toward all creatures in accordance with reason. Okay. And some of our members take that to mean that they should be vegetarian or vegan, and some of our members do not. They believe that in accordance with their reason that humans eat meat, and that's fine. And it's great because the way that we can interpret our tenet is up to each of us, and I love that. So I'm not vegan, but I don't know about Satan, but I just want to say that we do eat babies.
Oh, well, that is good to know. I was apprehensive about bringing up the Satanic Panic, but I'm happy that we can confirm it finally on this
today.
Perfect. If people wanted to learn more about Satanism or find out information about you or anything like that online, where would you point them?
Online, I would say thesatanictemple.org. There's an FAQ there. Some books that are great. If you want kind of a religious Satanist perspective, there's a book called Compassionate Satanism by Lilith Starr. Full disclosure, helped copy edit it. And there's also a book about the history of the Satanic Temple up to a certain year, I think maybe up till 2019 or so, by Joseph Laycock, called Speak of the Devil.
Fantastic. I will add these to the description of the podcast if anybody is interested in looking them up. I really appreciate your time today and speaking to me about this and confirming and clarifying some of the misconceptions I had. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for listening.
Absolutely. Thank you. My name's Matt Storrs, and this has been Mattsplaining.